Actually, for the last couple of weeks, I've been working on the VW bus. I actually bought this bus back in 2015, so I've had it for a while, and I've driven it all over the country. I usually pull it behind my motorhome, and then I use it as my tow car to go to the national parks. But it's due for a refit, so I'm back to working on it. So here's the update. The motor is out. I actually ran the original air-cooled motor, which only had about 55 horsepower for about the first 3 years that I owned this car. Then I was actually in Arizona. I was going through the Grand Canyon up to the Arches National Park in Utah. And when it was during the summer, it was 106 degrees outside, right? I couldn't even drive the car because it's air-cooled. I mean, I was literally at 220 degrees on the engine temp in 20 minutes. I couldn't even drive it. And that's when I decided that I was done with air-cooled motors. They didn't have any horsepower. They couldn't get me up the mountains. And so I actually put in a Subaru turbo motor. And that's what I just tore out. I tore out my 2002 WRX Subaru turbo motor. It has 227 horsepower. And I've been running that for the last couple years. Originally, I installed this Subaru motor in a campground here in Florida. So I just kind of threw stuff around, but I had it running and I ran it for 3 years just like that. But since now I'm at my house, so I'm going to clean up the wiring. So if you want to know what I did, I put my fuel pump. My fuel pump is right here. Fuel filter. I have the ECU with all the relays, fuses, all marked behind the battery. And then you can see what I did to my fuel tank. I put the heat resistant just on the bottom half. That way it's kind of a mix. It still looks cool because it's painted. And I got the fuel return hose right there. So I have the water bucket. And then I'm going to put a house battery right there. This is actually a Rancho Performance transmission out of California. It's the Freeway Flyer Super Diff heavy build. So it's made to handle, well, they say 180 horsepower. But I've been running it with a lot more. 227 horsepower. But it's fine, just don't wail on it. And then, since I have it out, I'm trying to do everything while the engine's out because I can get in here and clean it all up. I'm going to put the house batteries over here. So this is actually the 2002 Subaru turbo motor. Right here's turbo. I have a water to air cooler in it, where this is the original air one. But because the motor is in the rear, I was running this. I could just cool it a lot better. But it had a lot of hoses. It took up a lot of space, right? So I've spent the last couple weeks rebuilding this motor. So this is the motor I'm about to put in the bus. It's actually my 94 turbo Subaru STI motor. It was running at 300 horsepower. Now because this is going to be actually my long distance road trip engine, which is why I'm putting it in for summer road trip time, I've actually taken the turbo off. And I'm going to leave the turbo off and we're going to see how it does with the turbo delete. But it should be more reliable, it'll run cooler, and I don't have to play with all of that turbo hoses and the intercooler kind of stuff. It'll just be nice and simple, but it still should have around 180 horsepower. So why do I like the 94 Subaru better than the 2002 Subaru? Well, number one, it has these really cool valve covers and it has coil on plug instead of a spark plug wire. And so when I put this in, it's going to be all nice and clean. There's not going to be any spark plug coils sitting around. There's not going to be spark plug wires. Everything's going to be nice and clean and easy to work on. However, I am going to put the AC on, and that's part of what I'm about to do. So that's where I am with this Subaru motor install. It's ready to go in. Visit my page for day-to-day updates, but this is where we are for the week update. Actually, for the last 2 weeks.